I'm a rising senior, so I like first started thinking about it maybe in 7th grade-ish, because like that was like when I was like, like puberty, or like discovering yourself. And then I was like, oh, I'm like not interested in XX chromosomes, I'm interested in XY chromosomes. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should like get a little more interested in these kinds of things. So then like 7th grade was about when I started getting interested in that. But like I didn't do too much with it. I was just like peripherally interested. And then like as years went on, I got more and more in depth with it. So when I was in between 9th grade and 10th grade, which was 2 or 3 years ago, my sister got like really in depth involved with a local legislators campaign. And like she basically helped set up like a huge aspect of it. She was like door knocking, phone calling, the whole shebang. And like I got to like look at just how much effort she put in and like what she was working for, and I was like, wow, this is like really doable, and I can help too. And like it's all local. I can help locally right here, because like Idaho is mega red, and like even here in Boise, the most like liberal part, well, not necessarily just the most liberal part, but like with like Sun Valley and everything, but it's like definitely very purple. And then it's just like we can swing these kinds of things, because like I like to believe that people aren't like, or at least are like pretty rational. Like if you tell it to them right, then like they'll realize like, hey, yeah, these are good ideas. And then so like that's just when I started like going like super in depth. And then as time goes on, I just have gotten more and more in depth, because we're so connected to each other that like even just one voice can change a whole bunch of things. And just by like saying your thoughts, your opinions, what you think, you can influence a whole bunch of other people who just might not be like strong enough, or like might not have enough courage, or just might not have the chance to like stand up for themselves, and like you can inspire them to do those things. So that's one aspect. But then it's just like, if you don't do it for you have to do it for yourself, I think. Also after a point, like you need to do it, and like it's just important to show who you are, I think, by volunteering for these kinds of things. So Paulette is pretty awesome. So I go to Centennial High School, and that was like Ixona Rexepi. She was the previous year's like basically the high school caucus chair for like Idaho Young Democrats, and for like she was also Centennial's like chair. So then she invited Paulette down, and I got a chance to meet her there. So that was really awesome. And then it's just, Paulette's a really inspiring speaker. And also our previous, like in Idaho, because we're so purple, like we have to have people that are definitely more like centrist than actually like liberal. But so like our previous Democratic candidate, AJ Belukoff, he's like very determinedly centrist. And I mean, like, I like him, but like he's just not personally what I'm looking for. And then like, but like Paulette is like pretty progressive, and like that's just like, I think what a lot of young people also are looking for is like, rather than just like saying like Democrat or Republican, we're also looking for like, what are your ideals behind your candidate? So like, and like Paulette has progressive ideals behind her, and I think that's really important in who I'm looking for. I certainly hope so. I mean, like, I think that it depends on the way that you present it, because in this day and age, there's a lot of like, we hate science, or like we hate the media, we hate like these kinds of things that are like presented to it. But like, so like you have to present it in a way that it's more locally tied to you. So like you said it earlier, it's all about like your landscapes, your forests, and like we have so much forest, like so much natural lands here. It's just like, you need to present it in a way that like you tie it to them as a person. You can't just like, these issues are important, but unless you tie it to them, like as what you said earlier, like it's impossible to like connect to them. If you present like local weather occurrences like the wildfire, and also like 2 years ago we had like a few bad storms, and it's just like, like this is what happens when you get this kind of global warming, is like, you have more volatile weather patterns and all of that kind of jazz. But you have to like present it in a way like that is definitely related to them. So like Idaho, the weather, or like Boise, like the weather that we had a few years ago, it's like it's definitely getting more and more volatile, because you're like, hey, we have more and more water entering the atmosphere because it's getting warmer and warmer, and because more water goes into the atmosphere, then that means that we have like bigger and bigger storms. So it's just like, if you present it in a way that like logically makes sense, then like I think people will understand. Right? Like because I really didn't know who I was, or like I didn't have like a strong sense of my own identity without like being able to connect with other people who were like, you know, like similar to me. And I was like, hey, there are other people like me out there, because I'm not just like, it's not just that I'm gay in Idaho, but it's also like, you know, I'm a minority in Idaho. So it's like, while there are other Chinese people in Idaho, it's like, I'm not like in California where there's like a huge amount of like Asian population kind of a thing. So it's just like, you connect and you can see people who are like similar to you beyond just like being a human, you know?
Yeah.
So like I think that's really important, and like bridging your like common ideals. We should celebrate our diversity, and like, you know, it'd be really cool to have like the first Native American governor in like an office and like across the US. So like it's just when you're in a group of when you're in a classroom and there's just like you're like maybe one or two out of maybe like 30 kids in a room, like the rest of them are all white, and then like you have one or two that are just like Asian, Black, or just like definitively not white, like Hispanic, Latinx. It's just like, I think that kind of positioning like really lets you like see a different kind of perspective. It's just like, it's hard to explain because it's not like not everyone has faced it, but it's like, it definitely makes you more aware in a sense of like what goes on, like because like you're visibly different compared to other people. So like I think it has impacted myself in that way.